Welcome to Moments in History channel. Picture this, October 1st, 331 BCE. The sun beats down on a vast, dusty plain near modern-day Mosul, Iraq. On one side, Alexander the Great, with a tight-knit Macedonian force of 47,000 battle-hardened soldiers. On the other, the Persian king, Darius III, commanding a colossal army that some historians believe numbered over 100,000 men. This isn't just a battle. It's a clash of empires, a moment where history itself holds its breath. This is the story of the Battle of Gaugamela, the engagement that would shatter an empire and forge the legend of Alexander the Great. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most decisive and brilliant military victories in all of history. How did a young king, thousands of miles from home and hopelessly outnumbered, manage to topple the mightiest empire the world had ever seen? The answer lies in genius, courage, and a strategy so audacious it almost defies belief. So buckle up, because we're marching into the heart of the action at Gaugamela. To understand Gaugamela, we first need to understand the stakes. Alexander had already dealt Darius two major defeats at the Granicus River and Issus. He had conquered Egypt and the entire eastern Mediterranean coast. But Darius was far from finished. He had retreated into the heartland of his empire, Mesopotamia and Persia, to rally a new, even larger army. This was his last stand. For Darius, Gaugamela was about preserving his throne and the Achaemenid Empire, a dynasty that had ruled for over 2 centuries. For Alexander, it was the ultimate prize: total dominion over Persia and the fulfillment of a vision to unite East and West under his rule. Everything was on the line. Darius wasn't leaving anything to chance. He learned from his previous defeat at Issus, where the narrow battlefield had nullified his numerical advantage. This time, he chose his ground with meticulous care, a wide, open plain. He even ordered his soldiers to flatten the terrain, clearing it of any bushes or obstacles that could impede his most fearsome weapon, the scythed chariot. These were war machines designed for pure terror, with sharp blades extending from their wheels, meant to slice through enemy infantry formations. With a massive cavalry force and his elite infantry, the Immortals, Darius believed he had created the perfect kill zone. He was confident that on this flat ground, his sheer numbers would simply overwhelm and crush the smaller Macedonian army. He had the numbers, the terrain, and the home field advantage. On paper, Alexander's invasion was about to come to a bloody end. As the Macedonians arrived and saw the sheer scale of the Persian force stretched out before them, even Alexander's most trusted general, Parmenion, was worried. He advised a night attack, a surprise strike under the cover of darkness to sow confusion and mitigate the numerical disadvantage. But Alexander famously rejected the idea, stating, "I will not steal my victory." He was a man who craved not just the win, but the glory of winning decisively in broad daylight against impossible odds. He wanted the world to see Macedonian tactical superiority, not a victory won by stealth. So, instead of a risky night raid, Alexander let his men rest. He, on the other hand, spent the night meticulously planning. He rode out to reconnoiter the battlefield himself, analyzing every inch of the ground Darius had so carefully prepared. He knew he couldn't fight a conventional battle. He couldn't meet the Persians head-on, line for line. He would be enveloped and destroyed. He needed a plan that was as brilliant as it was daring. He needed to turn Darius's greatest strength, his numbers, into his greatest weakness. The plan he devised would become a masterclass in military strategy, studied by generals for millennia to come. On the morning of the battle, Alexander arranged his army in a formation that must have looked bizarre to the Persians. Instead of a long, thin line matching the Persian front, he deployed his troops in what appeared to be a slanted, echeloned right wing. His best troops, the elite companion cavalry and the hypaspist infantry, were stacked heavily on his right. His left flank, commanded by the veteran Parmenion, was angled back, almost refusing to engage. Crucially, behind his main line, Alexander placed a second line of infantry. This was his masterstroke. This reserve force was there to counter any attempt by the Persians to encircle him. They could turn and face an attack from the rear or the sides, effectively creating a flexible, box-like defense. Alexander wasn't just preparing to attack, he was preparing for the chaos he intended to create. As the battle began, Alexander didn't charge straight ahead. Instead, he began marching his entire army to the right, parallel to the Persian line. This was a completely unorthodox move. The Persians watched, confused. Was Alexander trying to outflank their massive line? Or was he trying to move off the flattened ground that Darius had so carefully prepared for his chariots? Darius couldn't risk Alexander moving to rougher terrain. He had to react. He ordered his cavalry on the Persian left flank to ride out and stop Alexander's sideways advance. This was exactly what Alexander wanted. By forcing Darius's left wing to extend outwards, he was beginning to create a gap in the Persian line. Darius, growing impatient, decided it was time to unleash his terror weapon, the scythed chariots. Hundreds of them thundered across the plain, aimed directly at the heart of the Macedonian phalanx. But Alexander was ready. He had trained his men for this exact moment. As the chariots approached, the front ranks of the Macedonian infantry opened their formations, creating channels for the chariots to pass through. Men on the sides then threw javelins at the horses and drivers, while the second line of infantry closed the gaps behind them, trapping and neutralizing the chariots. The terrifying weapon that was meant to shatter the Macedonian line had been rendered almost completely ineffective. It was a huge psychological blow to the Persians and a massive morale boost for Alexander's men. With the chariot threat gone, the real battle began. The cavalry engagement on the right flank was becoming intense. More and more Persian cavalry were being drawn away from the center to try and stop Alexander's continued sideways movement. This was the moment. The Persian line, stretched and distorted by its pursuit of Alexander's right flank, had developed a weak point. A gap had opened near the center, right next to where Darius himself was positioned. Seeing his opportunity, Alexander wheeled his elite companion cavalry, forming them into a wedge. It was the decisive moment of the battle. With himself at the very tip of the spear, he led a thunderous, all-or-nothing charge directly into that gap, aiming straight for Darius. This was Alexander's signature move, leading from the front, risking everything, and inspiring his men with his own incredible courage. The charge smashed through the weakened Persian center, cutting through Darius's royal guards and infantry. Imagine the scene from Darius's perspective. He is watching the battle from his war chariot, surrounded by his best troops. Suddenly, the battle he thought he was controlling has ruptured. Alexander the Great, a figure of almost mythical prowess, is charging directly at him, his spear lowered, his eyes locked on the Persian king. Panic set in. For the second time in his life, Darius turned his chariot and fled the battlefield. As word spread that Darius was gone, the Persian center disintegrated. The will to fight evaporated. An army doesn't fight for a king who has abandoned it. Chaos ensued as thousands of Persian soldiers broke rank and ran, trying to save their own lives. However, the battle wasn't over just yet. On the left flank, Alexander's general, Parmenion, was in serious trouble. A section of the Persian right wing had broken through the Macedonian line and was even beginning to loot their camp. Parmenion sent a desperate message to Alexander for help. Here, Alexander faced a critical choice. Should he pursue the fleeing Darius and capture or kill him, ending the war once and for all? Or should he turn back to save his struggling left flank and secure the victory? The glory-seeking conqueror in him surely screamed to chase Darius. But the brilliant commander knew better. A victory is only a victory if your army survives. Demonstrating immense discipline, Alexander abandoned his pursuit of Darius and wheeled his companion cavalry around to smash into the back of the Persian right wing that was attacking Parmenion. Caught between Alexander's charge and Parmenion's beleaguered but stubborn defense, the remaining Persian resistance crumbled. The day was won. The aftermath of Gaugamela was staggering. While Macedonian casualties were in the hundreds, Persian losses were in the tens of thousands. The victory was absolute. It effectively destroyed the Achaemenid Empire as a fighting force. Darius would later be assassinated by one of his own satraps, and Alexander would march unopposed into the great cities of Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, claiming the vast treasures of the Persian Empire. The Battle of Gaugamela is more than just a story of military tactics. It's a testament to the power of leadership, innovation, and courage. Alexander's victory wasn't just about the oblique formation or the cavalry charge. It was about his ability to anticipate his enemy's moves, his psychological understanding of warfare, and his unwavering belief in himself and his men. He proved that a smaller, well-disciplined, and brilliantly led army could defeat a numerically superior force through superior strategy and coordination. The consequences of this single day's fighting reshaped the world. The fall of the Persian Empire paved the way for the Hellenistic Age, a period where Greek culture, language, and ideas spread from Greece all the way to India. It was a fusion of East and West on an unprecedented scale, creating a new, vibrant civilization that would influence art, philosophy, and science for centuries. The legacy of Gaugamela is the legacy of Alexander himself, a story of boundless ambition and the will to reshape the world. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into one of history's greatest battles. What do you find most impressive about Alexander's strategy? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the ancient world, don't forget to like, subscribe to Moments in History channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. Until next time, stay curious and enlightened.